and welcome to the North American Ag Spotlight. I'm Chrissy Wozniak. Today, I'm going to be talking with the Vice President of Content Develop and Programming at Farm Life Agrimedia. He's the host of Inside Farm Life podcast, and his passion for country music is shown in everything he does. I'd like to welcome Brent Adams. Thank you, Brent, so much for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. And you've had a very busy year and a lot of changes. So can you tell me what's new?
Absolutely. So came on board this startup venture at the beginning of May of this year, Farm Life Media. And it's an interesting story. It was created by some folks, we're farmers, just to have a gathering place for farmers and ranchers and others in the industry who are just wanted a place to find some education, a place to commiserate about the things that are not going right in the industry, and just share stories and help one another out. So through the course of 3 years, they gained about 180,000 followers. So along the way,
Amazing.
they decided that they wanted to create a media company around this to deliver content directly to those folks who we're looking for additional content around the country and really around the world. So we've started out with a podcast, Inside Farm Life, and that also there's a radio show version of that as well. That's weekly, and we're also working on some video projects. We've got a website that's prepared to launch, farmlifemedia.com. Going to launch here in the next couple of weeks. We're working with a great partner, Bubble Up, out of Houston, Texas, and Nashville, and they are big. Part of our mission also is traditional country music, and they're big in the music industry. They built websites for everybody from Alan Jackson and George Strait and Brad Paisley to Kiss and Aerosmith and Jimmy
Wow.
Buffett. So they're a heavy hitter in the industry. They've never done an ag media website, so we're partnering on something that's going to be we feel like best in class here. So really excited about that. It's going to be a place where you can find podcasts. We're going to curate other podcasts and maybe bring on board some other people who are, known ag media folks who really have their finger on the pulse of what's going on in media. We're going to create some video projects. We've got a live streaming 24/7 radio station that we soft launched a couple months ago that's going to have a bunch of original programming on it, as well as traditional country and some a little bit of bluegrass and gospel, a little bit of Southern rock on there. Just something that folks can stream while they're in their tractors or combines or sprayers or their barn or wherever they listen to media. So that's on Live 365 right now, but it's going to be a big portion of that website too. So our mission is really to create, and I tell people this all the time, the largest farm family on the planet, a place
Wow.
where everybody can come and gather for education, information, a little entertainment, and just a place to hang out. And if for folks that know anything about social media, they know things have been changing so much. It's kind of hard, even with 180,000 followers, to really target that content to people, because you're only as good as the social media channels allow you to be in terms of who they distribute that content to. So we're trying to create a platform where people can come to us and spend more time on that platform rather than on the socials, and create just a gathering place where people can come to learn. We're going to have something called Farm Life U, where we have educational blogs and videos from university agronomists and animal husbandry experts and equipment experts and extension agents and different folks around the country that can speak into different timely matters.
That's really cool. Yeah. And in this time right now, with mainstream media, has, to say the least, has lost trust. So I think that this is the perfect time for something like this, where just dive in and have somewhere where people in agriculture can trust, right?
Absolutely. Well, that's part of it too, is making sure that we bring kind of an objective eye to things. So we're trying to bring in people who aren't coming in with an agenda, but can bring some objectivity to whatever subject we're talking about. So always looking for really knowledgeable people that can bring different perspectives, because as you know, and spending so much time around this industry, you can put 10 different people in a room and they're going to have 10 different perspectives on how things should be done. And they're very strong in those opinions. So, we try to bring as many of those opinions to the table as we can. And, let the viewer, the listener kind of make their decision from there.
Absolutely. And the podcast is a big part of this, right? And yours is unique because you have segments within the podcast. So can you tell me about that?
Right. So the model is more of a, traditional news format, whereas a lot of podcasts are based on more storytelling, or they might just have an interview with one person. We do segment it, and some of those segments go anywhere from about 5 to 15 minutes, and we try to bring in ag industry newsmakers, or we talk about hot button topics in the industry, or we bring in educational features, like agronomy, or like equipment maintenance, or anything that we think our listeners will find fascinating. And then we also involve the country music aspect. We have a segment called Back to the Country, where we created a conduit to take some of this traditional country music that maybe isn't being played as much on terrestrial radio these days, because kind of the flavor of that music has changed, and there's a lot of great artists out there that aren't getting play because they just don't fit the format. So we've kind of we found that people in agriculture, people in rural America, still love that old traditional country sound. So we have tried to find those artists that are still really good at making that kind of music and taking it directly to back to the country, as we say. So we've got some developments we're working with on that. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks. I wish I could break some news here on that right now. We're awful close to putting something together with some new live tapings down in Nashville. And I've got a special co-host that's going to be coming on with that too. And we got some really cool stuff going on with that. So I hope
Oh,
everybody will
that's
stay
so
tuned for that.
exciting. I'm really excited about that. I love country music too. And so, yeah, you clearly love country music and you have forever. Where did that come from?
Well, I tell you what, ever since I was a little boy, I had uncles who were in radio, and kind of watched them. I remember the one uncle in particular was a country music disc jockey. When I was probably 5 or 6 years old, listening to him on the radio, and that was late '70s, early '80s. So you had guys like Johnny Cash and Johnny Paycheck and Waylon and Willie and Merle Haggard and folks like that, and Charlie Pride. My first concert was a Mel Tillis concert when I was about 5 years old. And
Wow.
Charlie Pride was my second, Kenny Rogers my third. And just that passion for that has always been there and kind of grown over the years. And I've listened to all sorts of music over the years, and always kind of come back around to that old classic country sound. And so I had the opportunity later in my career to work in PR in independent country music out of Nashville. So I really got a good feel for just what kind of music was being made out there, but not really making it into the mainstream. So I always thought if I had a platform to be able to share some of those artists that are doing this stuff, that would kind of be the way to go. So along the way, I met so many great people, and that have kind of helped me. And the more that people hear about what we're doing here, the more doors it opens, because there's people that are just clamoring to get that content out there. So I don't really have to go searching for guests too much for this now. I mean, there's a lot of people that want to get on board, and a lot of these people that are doing it came from agricultural backgrounds. So they have a real appreciation for farming and ranching, and we talk about that whenever there is that tie there. So they can talk about their roots in agriculture, and it makes for some interesting conversations.
Yeah, that's so cool. And you lost a great friend this year, Glenn Tubb. Can
Yeah.
you tell me about him and how he impacted your life?
Yeah, he was a great mentor to me as I was trying to get things started here, a number of years ago out of Nashville. I just kind of reached out to him, and that was at the time when the Midnight Jamboree, which was started by the country music legend Ernest Tubb, um, it was going through some financial difficulties, and it was kind of on its last legs. And so I reached out to him and asked what I might be able to do to help, and found myself as the director of public relations for a campaign to save the the Midnight Jamboree, and I'm happy to report it's still alive and kicking. There's
Wow.
a new owner as of last August, so about a year. As a matter of fact, a year this week, and they're going great guns now. They moved it from Music Valley in Nashville back down to the original location at 417 Broadway downtown at the original Ernest Tubb record shop. And Glenn was a guy that you could always talk to about what you're going through, and get his opinion on how you should approach stuff. And he and I worked together on another project to try to get a memorial built to Ernest Tubb in the stockyards in Fort Worth, Texas. Unfortunately, we weren't able to secure all the funding we needed, so that one's still on the back burner here. And I hate that we didn't get that done, in his lifetime, because he was such a just a diehard proponent for everything that the great Ernest Tubb did for country music, and paving the way for today's artists. And many of them don't even realize that, but he beat that drum as long as he had breath in his body. As a matter of fact, he hosted he hosted the Midnight Jamboree about 3 times a year. He actually hosted about 3 weeks before he passed away. So
Wow.
all the way to the end, he kept his uncle's memory alive. And we try to do that through this show, and he was the one that opened the door for me to start recording segments with the previous show that I had down at the Ernest Tubb record shop. So outside of the Midnight Jamboree on Saturday nights, I don't believe anybody else has recorded more artists out of that record shop than we did during that time. We did over 100 episodes there, and
Wow.
and a lot of artists. So he opened a lot of doors for me, and connected me to a lot of other people, which connected me to a lot of other people.
Mm.
And we've got this just a great almost family of folks that that we continue to spotlight in terms of artistry. And it's just a really cool connection. And it was heartbreaking to see him go. He had been in bad health for a while, and the best thing we can do now is just keep his memory alive, and keep pushing forward.
That's amazing. And agriculture is also very important to you. And like me, you weren't raised on a farm.
Right.
But where did all that passion come from?
Well, I tell you what, the passion comes from just watching everybody be passionate about it. I in my 26 years as a professional journalist, and when this opportunity came about, I grew up in rural America. I grew up with farms surrounding every place we lived. And so it's always something that's been there with me. Knowing people who did farm, having other people in extended family who farms, and just wanting to tell the story of agriculture. We go around to all these farm shows and conferences and conventions, and the one theme that I hear over and over again is, we've got to do a better job of telling our story in agriculture. And I've taken that to heart. There are plenty of opportunities to tell those stories, and for me, whether it's telling, in my career, I've been a sports journalist and broadcaster. I've been a religion writer. I've been a business editor. I've done all sorts of things in journalism. And, agriculture is no different. I mean, there's stories to tell there. And like any of those other niches, the deal is you find people who are knowledgeable about it. You research, you understand the issues, you formulate good questions, and then you throw it to them, and you just shut up and let them tell the story. So for me, it's just a matter of being prepared, and finding the right people to tell those stories.
Right. Yeah. And that's so honorable. And so I feel the same way that, everybody needs a voice, right? So if we can help people get that voice and show how much love and passion is in this industry, then
Right.
that's how we know we're doing good jobs, right?
And the other thing, and I'll give a plug for the National Association of Farm Broadcasters, because early on, getting involved in this, I became a member of that organization, and really spent a lot of time connecting with other farm broadcasters around the country, and really watching how they work and how they approach their craft. And there are just some amazing folks from coast to coast that dedicate their whole lives to farm broadcasting, and they're part of the fabric of their communities, and a vital part. We look at the statistics. NAFB does a quarterly wave of research to find out who's listening, when they're listening, what kinds of content they're listening to, and farm broadcasting has never been stronger. I hear all the time the radio's dying and whatever, but you look at the statistics across rural America, farmers and ranchers still heavily rely on radio to get the message out, maybe more so than than the internet. So um it's incumbent upon us to be able to still use that medium to tell those stories. So I really pay attention to what a lot of good farm broadcasters do, and I reach out to a lot of them, and ask questions, and I'll bring them on my show to lend perspective in terms of what's going on within their region, because we're all connected on social media, and I spend a lot of time watching what they're covering, and what the big issues are in their locale. And then if I see something that I think would appeal to our audience, then I always try to reach out to them and involve them in what we're doing too. And that's another big hope for all of this going forward, is that we can involve more of them in some of the content that we're creating here, and give some of those folks that are doing it on kind of a local or regional scale more of a national voice as well.
Yeah, that's great. And there's a lot in the pipeline. What can we expect in the coming months? I know you said the website, right?
Yeah, the website is job one. We've got to get that up and going here. Most people start with a website. We started with a Facebook page and a podcast. So we're kind of
Mhm.
working out from there. So that's going to be the big thing, getting that out. We're working on some video projects that are going to originate on probably YouTube or Vimeo, but be part of the website and be shared across social media. And the ultimate goal is to start creating some content for television. So we're working on some syndication there. Also working on syndication for the radio show. We've got a handful of stations now, but we're hoping to take that from coast to coast as well. So we're working with some folks to make that happen. So we can get out as much of this content as we can. And the big thing is we want to be an ear for the farming community too. So if ever folks have ideas for stories or things that we should be covering, or things they think we're missing, on my show every week, I always put my email address on there, and folks can reach out to me there. Or once we get that website up, we'll have all that contact information on there. Please, and you can message us through the Farm Life Facebook page too, and we'll get those. But anytime you have story ideas or things you think that the farming community would be interested in hearing about, let us know, and we'll definitely pursue that, because we're here for farmers and ranchers.
Yeah, that's great. And what I can see about farm life now, like I see it's a lot about the people, obviously, who put food on our tables for the whole nation. And I can see that farm life, they care about the farmers' lives, about their well-being, about mental health, and their spiritual lives. So
Right.
was all of this intentional, like from the
Oh, yeah.
get-go, or has this all just happened?
Well, a lot of it has been organic. I
Yeah.
wasn't here at the beginning, but my understanding is that they wanted to have all those components, because I think faith is a big part of it. And when we look at the analytics of the stuff that we share, some of those faith posts are the biggest drivers of content that we have there. So I mean, that tells you that there's that common thread there. And the more we see people wanting it, the more we want to give it to them. So we big on that, big on educational pieces. We see that those get shared really well, and they get a lot of engagement, because again, everybody's got an opinion. They want to throw that opinion in there. So it gives them a chance to sound off and feel heard. And there's a couple other big issues you mentioned. Mental health. That's one that we're always going to keep front and center on our shows. Brandon Deal does his show on Wednesday night, and I do a number of ag themed live streams on there as well. And we try at least quarterly to bring on mental health experts just to keep that topic, top of mind, because you never know when you're meeting somebody where they're at, and that's something that we
Absolutely.
never want to forget there. And another is just general farm safety, physical safety. And now, as we're getting into harvest season here, it's time to circle back around to that one again. So you're going to be seeing stuff in the coming weeks on equipment prep and maintenance to make sure you're being safe as you get your equipment out in the field, and also grain bin safety, because that's one no matter how much we beat that drum, then you turn around and see another devastating story like one I saw here a couple of weeks ago of another incident. And it's like, man, no matter how much you say it, it's still going to be an issue. So as long as we keep seeing grain bin accidents, entrapments, and deaths, we're going to keep that front and center too. Is just a reminder. And you hope that even if you're only reaching one or two people with that message, that something's going to click, and you're going to say something that's going to trigger something for somebody when they're in the midst of being around this stuff. So
Yeah, that's important.
you know
Yeah. Well, one last question for you. What did God put you on this earth to accomplish? You
wow,
personally.
that's
Mhm.
a good one. There's I feel like there's so many things. First of all, it's being an advocate for him, telling his story. I think that's the most important, to be able to share the gospel with people, and trying to live that out. I think that's the most important. And sometimes in all transparency, that gets lost in the day to day. So there's always a need to kind of refocus and regroup on that, but also being the best husband and father. I've got 5 children, and want to be an example for those kids. And how to be a good Christian, but also to leave the world better than you found it. And when you have a platform like this, that can't be taken for granted. And I just want them to understand work ethic too. That's another part of it, is to I show up every day and give it everything I've got here to try to do the best we can for what we're building here. And I'm excited to see where it all goes. But try not to, it's real easy to get in these situations and make work your purpose, and say, God put me on earth to communicate this story to farmers and ranchers. Well, it's a job, and I enjoy doing it. I'm passionate about doing it. I probably spend more hours every day thinking about it and doing it than I should. But at the end of the day, just serving God and living for Him, and telling folks about Him. That's where the priority should be. And I just hope at the end of the day that that I can try to achieve that mission.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's awesome. And thank you so much for joining me today. It's always
You're
awesome
welcome.
to talk to you.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me on. I appreciate it. You're doing a great job with this show, and everything you're doing to make those connections around agriculture, I think is so exciting and so important. And I'm just excited to see where everything you're doing is going, because I know God's leading you in some exciting places too.
Sure is. And thanks to everybody who's watching or listening. If you want more information, the links are provided in the show notes. Don't forget to subscribe to North American Ag Spotlight on YouTube and Rumble channels. And the podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Amazon, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And have a great day.